Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. Do you see how she started barking literally as soon as I pressed go? Do you see this? Hey guys, welcome to SheKnowsArsenal. My name is Jessica. I'm your host. You can follow me on Twitter at It's Jessinho. And today we're doing a transfer show. And it feels like I haven't talked to you guys in a while. I think it's because maybe the last time we talked was after the FA Cup match that we bombed out of. We were out of that competition, and I'm still a little bit like not feeling like the best about it. That being said, like, there's been a lot of conversations around. Oh, wait, hold on real quick. Sorry, you guys. Oh, a lot of conversations around our transfers and all of that kind of stuff. So we're going to talk about that. And then tomorrow we'll do a full preview on the Carabao Cup match against Liverpool. Let me just let everybody know that we are live. I always forget at least one step in this whole process. You would think after a year of doing this, I would know what I am doing. But you guys let me know in the chat box how you guys are feeling about the latest transfer news. There's been so much. Nothing has really happened as of yet. We have signed a player. We will be talking about that in just a second, but nothing of note has really happened yet. Just a lot of noise. So you guys let me know what you guys are thinking. And also, I have a community poll going on right now that is do you think Dusan Vlahovic will be signed by Arsenal in this transfer window? And so go ahead and get in there and start voting. Kieran4215 says, watch the Arsenal Vision podcast, scouting video, or YouTube videos, and then watch the first half versus City and think of having Vlahovic in the City game in the first half, especially that 20 to 30 minutes. Instead of Lacazette, for me, becomes a different game, in my opinion. Kieran says, I think we signed Vlahovic and Douglas Luiz, in my opinion. So, yeah, I think I will be watching the scouting video, obviously. But, just kind of doing my own research. He's an interesting and exciting player. And there's no doubt in my mind that I think that he would make us better. $80 million worth better, 300 grand a week better. That's where my apprehension kind of comes in. I think Arsenal does a really good job in the 20 to $30 million range in terms of signings. When you think of those signings, you're thinking of your Kieran Tierney's, your Gabriel's, your Odegaard's, these types of players, your Tomiyasu's. We do really well in that range, but most of the signings that we've had that have been over 50 million or in and around that mark, there's been some, maybe divisiveness amongst the fan base on whether those signings have really worked out for us. So I think it gives me a little bit of anxiety just knowing he's 21 years old. And he's having an extraordinary season, his second really good season in Serie A. But is it worth spending that amount on it? I feel a little bit anxious about that. And you're paying like proven player prices. This is somebody who is very young, younger than Eddie Nketiah, and you think about spending that amount of money on a Haaland or, Mbappe or, these types of players. But Vlahovic to me is not really on that level. So it's one of those where I am worried about it. I know that I feel like the club wants to either they want to make a statement or they really believe that this guy is the real deal. Either way, if you do sign this guy and you put him on 300 grand a week, you have to think about how that's going to tip the scales in terms of how do the other young players in our squad feel about one person being on 300 grand a week, just as much as Aubameyang, and the rest of them are kind of lower than that, so it's difficult. It's one of those where I really think like you got to get it 100% right. And when you think about why his agent may be keeping him from coming to Arsenal. We're not like, it's well documented that we are willing to splash the cash. It's not about how much of the agent fees. It's not about how much Vlahovic would want for his wages. It's because the agent is not convinced that the Premier League is the right place for Vlahovic to go. And we may be looking at him like the enemy here, because in the past it's felt like agents have been on the um, opposition side of Arsenal when it comes to transfers, but he may be protecting the player because he may not be convinced that he's ready to arrive in the Premier League. You only arrive once, and if you don't do a good job and you kind of flop, it's hard to make it up at that point. A big statement signing, 80 million 80 million pounds or euros or whatever, 300 grand a week. If you flop, like, you're done. And so for me, like, when I look at the agent, I'm thinking from the other perspective of, even if he's going to get the agent fees that he wants, Vlahovic is going to get the money that he wants. Maybe he's protecting the player because he knows that he needs to stay in Serie A like 1-2 more years before he makes that jump. So those are the things that I've kind of been thinking about over the last couple of days when it comes to this is the right signing. And I know that he's a good player. Don't get me wrong. I just have a little bit of apprehension about making that huge step up. It's not just Serie A to the Premier League. It's Fiorentina, which, no disrespect to Fiorentina, is not Arsenal Football Club, rebuilding Arsenal Football Club that need to get almost every single move right, so it's going to be interesting. But if he came in, I think that I would just hope that he's a good signing and it works out, because it kind of would have to. I'm going to go ahead and read out the first. You guys have probably, if you haven't already heard of this news, then you'll hear it here first. But if you have, it was interesting today, right? You see us? That is so weird that we're like watching the show from there. But there's tons of reports. So this kind of came out today, and you have to kind of take this with a grain of salt because I don't know who these people are, but this was making the rounds on Twitter today that Dusan Vlahovic, news from Arsenal Supporters Club Croatia on Facebook. The relationship between Vlahovic and his agent is very thin. Agent fees are not expected to be an issue. Dusan is interested in Arsenal and could sack his agent if he causes trouble. And that's pretty much what this Facebook report is, or this Facebook post is saying. And there's a little bit of, I'm not sure, like when we talk about the translation, if very thin means that the relationship, they're very close. That there was some conversations around whether or not very thin meant that they were actually closer together than it's thin and it's at the breaking point. Nevertheless, like, the main part of this is that Dusan is interested in Arsenal, and if his agent were to get in his way, it could cause some issues. And I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I guess I understand where some people would come from the perspective of, why would he want to come to Arsenal? You guys don't have European football yet. Arteta is not really a top manager. There's all these other places that he can go, but I'm not sure that there's like all these other places that he can go. And when we start talking about how competitive it's going to be in the summer for him, we're projecting. We don't actually know. The summer transfer window is going to be very interesting. There's going to be a lot of strikers available at that time, and different clubs are going to be looking for different things. So, I get why people would say, like, why would he go there? He could wait and all of this kind of stuff. But I can't see a young player like him looking at Arsenal as some sort of like, oh, I don't want to go there. I think it's more about the Premier League than Arsenal. Is he right for the Premier League right now? Is this the right step for him to make? Not necessarily at the project, because I think the Arsenal project is very attractive for young players because we do look a lot better. We are making progress. It's a place where young players get playing time. And if you are the type of player that rates yourself really highly, you might think, I want to be a part of this young team getting back into the Champions League. So, um, maybe there is a little bit to this where he is interested. It is more about the agent and whether the agent feels like the Premier League is the right place for him to go right now. He's going to get the agent fees. That's the reality. Like, he's not going to get bigger agent fees anywhere else. If Vlahovic wants to go to Juventus, they don't have the money. They have other priorities. That has been well reported. So it's going to be interesting to see. This is kind of our only opportunity to do this. But this report, again, has to be taken with a grain of salt. Is very, very interesting in regards to Dusan Vlahovic and us being able to bring him in. Another report from Sami Mokbel, 81, whatever, basically says Vlahovic is aware of Arsenal's interest and can be convinced of the project Arteta is building. And the Gunners do have a chance of landing this highly rated forward if the club can make a competitive financial offer, right? So it really went from like there's absolutely no chance unless the agent changes to he can be convinced. And a lot of times from the outside, the agent, if he wants his client to go somewhere else, or he doesn't want him to go to a certain place, he will make it seem as if in the media there's no interest in Arsenal whatsoever. Then the media takes it and spins it out of control and makes it into this, because what's going to sell better? Vlahovic's agent is not sure about the Premier League, or Vlahovic is not picking up Arsenal's phone calls because he doesn't think Arsenal is the right place. Do you know what I mean? Which one sells the most in terms of clicks and papers and stuff like that? So it's really funny how it's went from one extreme to a little bit of a softer stance of he can be persuaded, he is interested, depending on who you believe. And quite frankly, like when I think about transfers, I think about it from the perspective of if there was absolutely no chance of us getting him and the agent felt like there's just no way whatsoever, then why would we be wasting our time? We have 30 minutes, or like not 30 minutes, 30 days to bring somebody in. And why would we waste more time? If there's absolutely no chance. You don't go through the like work of putting together financial packages for somebody who's not interested to coming to your club, period. Unless they say, we can be convinced, show me what your best offer is. This is what we're looking for, so it's interesting. I personally think there's a little bit more interest than has been previously reported. Do I think that he's going to come? I'm not sure, because I know his agent has a very big say in this. And if he doesn't think the Premier League is the right place for Vlahovic right now, it is what it is. And when we get to the summer, nothing is going to happen, but I do think, or it's going to be more difficult to bring him in the summer. But, it's not really about, is he a good player or not? Like, we know he's a good player, but is the outlay going to be so big that this guy can't live up to it? And are we making the right decision? Could we wait until the summer and look at different options? I do think all the other options have some of the same pros and cons, but I mean, this is some serious stuff. But what we do know is that we're very, very interested in this guy. And if there's anything for Arsenal fans to take from this, even if we don't bring in Vlahovic, is that it's nice to be in a transfer window and not being talking about how little money we have. Over the last 5 years or so, before the summer transfer window, it was always Arsenal don't have any money. They can't spend. They don't have this. They don't have that. Now, we know we have the money. We know that Josh is willing to back Mikel Arteta. So even if we don't get our number one target, what we do know is that the club is ambitious enough to push out the boat for who we really want. And if we don't get our first option, we will go out and get our second one because money is not a problem. And those are the things that I look at. It's the silver lining against a situation where you don't really want, to be rejected this publicly. But if it does happen, there are silver linings. So, we have to kind of take it as it goes. Let's see. Tony says, if we get DV, I'll stop buying at Target and only buy at Walmart. Really? Oh, that's a big commitment. I love Target. Knowledge says Dusan's style does not fit with the speed of the league. Fair enough. O'Malley says, I don't quite get our transfer policy to take losses on the field due to not getting deals done. 3 first games and these 3 games this week seem to be throwaways for our transfer team. I hold a little bit of that feeling as well, O'Malley. I think that I would have preferred us to have things lined up by this time, to have a midfielder already in, because I personally think that this week could be make or break for our season. I know that there's always mathematically a chance and it's not the end and all of this, but I think if you slip up in the North London Derby in a 6-pointer, you are kind of, if we don't do well against Liverpool and then go into the North London Derby and don't get the right result, we could be looking at 4 games lost on the bounce, even maybe potentially 5, behind Tottenham in the top 4 race and out of both of the domestic cups. So I do hear what you're saying, and I share that same frustration. The only way that we'll look back on it and think this was the right thing to do is if we do bring in Vlahovic and he does kind of bolster our attack for the rest of the season and we make top 4 or make our targets. But right now it's looking a little bit like, are we really just going to throw things away? Yo-Yo says money is not an issue. Look at Neymar Jr. or Mbappe's fees for joining PSG. Look at João Felix for Atletico. Big clubs have to overspend. It's a status symbol or a statement signing. I agree with that. And I have debates with different people in the WhatsApp groups that I'm a part of about when is it time to make the statement signing. There are no hidden gems anymore. Everybody knows about everybody. And really the standard for a good signing is 50 million now. When we're talking about, let me put it this way. I would say that we've done really well in that 20 to $30 million range, and you can get really good players at that range, but there are all other teams that can also acquire those players at that price. There are the Aston Villas and the Leeds and the Leicesters and the West Hams that can also fight for those same players in that same bracket right now. When we start getting into the $50 million range, that's when you start, the other clubs really can't compete like that for those types of players, because you kind of have to have the status and the money to go with it. And I think we, at some point, because of who we are, we will end up spending more, as you've said, and also giving high wages. We're never going to be a team that has a bunch of players on 50 grand a week. That's just not, we are a big club. And when you look at Liverpool, Man City, Man United, Chelsea, they all pay high wages and overspend on players, where you're looking at it like, why did they spend that much? So we are kind of shopping in a different group. And when you look at, the Jonathan Davids, I think Jonathan David could be persuaded to go to West Ham, but I don't think Vlahovic would go to West Ham. So if we want to be in that upper level, we will have to shop in different areas and we will have to overspend. The key to it, and I think, Yo-Yo, that you said this earlier, is that we have to have a really good plan for these players. They have to fit the system, and we have to have really thought it out. And if there's one thing that we know about, if you want to give them both credit, Edu and Arteta, for the transfer policy, is that it has made sense on the pitch once you saw it. Pepe doesn't align with that really, because he was before that. And so that was a different group, a different transfer policy, different people running the team. But this new group of Arteta, Adu, Richard Garlick seem to know what they're doing in terms of getting the right butts in the right seats. And so regardless of what we pay, we feel like we've made the right decision. And hopefully if we do get Vlahovic, we'll feel the same way about him as well. Rancid says Vlahovic would be nice, but the striker position hasn't the same urgency like midfield. We can't afford to lose against Spurs. Let's see. Mohammed says, bring me Broha instead of Vlahovic, so talented. I think Vlahovic is better than Broha, but fair enough. I know he just played and did well. Jose Flores says, this Dusan Vlahovic deal is way more complicated in my opinion because people were interested in him. So logically, he's going to wait to see who else will come out. Exactly. And that's true. Let's see. Squishy9 says, if anyone signs him, it'll be Newcastle at the last minute. Not sure about that. Yeah, for sure. So I think that this is going to go down to the wire and we will look at deadline day and kind of see whether or not he came. But, it is what it is. I'm not really too worried about it. The only thing is that it does affect the midfield a little bit because I feel like we won't be able to bring in a midfielder of a certain level of quality, kind of rolling out the red carpet for Vlahovic in January. So we would be looking at like a Gini Wijnaldum on loan or somebody like that, so we'll see what happens. But there's 130 of you guys watching. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's move on to the next topic of discussion. We'll start with another one of the big ones, which is Bruno Guimaraes. So this is a player that I just feel like if we don't bring him in this time, we are just the dumbest club I've ever seen in my whole life. And the reason for that is because it does link with the news that has come out with Granit Xhaka today. Bruno Guimaraes is one of the best young midfielders in Europe. Like he just is statistically. I mean, he's right up there with Verratti. He's right up there with the top midfielders, very well-rounded, and is the perfect person to succeed Xhaka. And we've been Adu in particular has been very interested in him for like 3-4 years, and he missed out on him to Juninho and Lyon 2 years ago. And now I feel like it's time to collect. We need a midfielder that's going to bring up the level of our team. And as good as Xhaka has been since Arteta has come in, there's just a ceiling to him. And so I never really bought into the, because he re-signed the contract or we extended it, that necessarily meant that we were putting our flag in the sand and like tethering ourselves to Xhaka for the next couple of years. I just think it was push it to this summer coming up. And Bruno Guimaraes would be the perfect person to succeed him, to be the next guy up, to play next to Thomas Partey. I think that they would be a great partnership. You guys could probably imagine my shock and devastation to see that Juventus were negotiating a loan with an obligation to buy for Bruno Guimaraes in January. And I just thought to myself, Arsenal need to be involved in this. There's no reason why he should go to Juventus over Arsenal. I know that Juventus are in a better scenario because they're in Champions League right now, but they're sitting outside of the top 4 in Serie A. Like they're struggling, and I feel like if anything, I would be trying to outbid Juventus to get my midfielder. But it feels like we're more concerned about Vlahovic at the moment. And some of the reports that I saw about Bruno Guimaraes is that he's admired, but the money is a little bit steep for us at the moment. And that's because we are trying to buy the striker. And that sucks a little bit, because if we miss out on Bruno Guimaraes, I just don't see who else really fits that mold that works for us. I know that I'm a huge Basuma fan, but I feel like we need something different. Now that I've seen how Xhaka and Partey really work together, I think we need somebody that can do the defensive stuff, but also can be almost like a deep line playmaker. And that is Bruno to a T. This report said that Kia Jarapshin, and this is coming from Football London, Kia Jarapshin, our guy, Kia, is ready to broker a deal between Arsenal and Bruno Guimaraes as the North London side look to battle Juventus for a signature. Lyon are looking for a loan with a 45 million euro obligation. Do it. If you get a loan right now, you could bring him in now, and it solves a lot of our problems. And then you just have to put the rest of the money up, So I just don't see how we could allow this to go by, because I don't see any other midfielders that really fit that I feel like could come in the summer. I just don't see it. I think he's the perfect fit. So seeing that at least Kia is involved, I don't know. Get your scandal together, Kia. Get your scandal in there. Do what you got to do. I don't know what you got to do, but do it, because this is the right person to come in for Arsenal. He is so, so good. I don't know if you guys probably do watch the Gunnar Talk, Tom's channel, but they did an excellent breakdown on Bruno Guimaraes the other day, and with an expert that came in. And obviously they had done one before because we've been linked more than once, but he just seems like the right guy, doesn't he? So this is the move that I would like to see get done in January. If Vlahovic doesn't happen, then Vlahovic doesn't happen. But the thing that I will say is, if it's a compulsive, whatever, why am I trying to say the hard word? If it is an obligation to buy, then let me just get this joker out of here. If it is an obligation to buy, I don't know how this works, but if we loan him, could we still get Vlahovic as well? I'm not sure. So I don't know if it's, but I don't know what it's going to come down to, but I just think that this is the right move. And so we'll see what happens. Rancid Pumpkin says we should loan Guimaraes and buy him in the summer. I agree. Tony says Bruno Guimaraes would be so, so good. I would close my Prime account and only shop at Walmart if we get. These are big words, Tony. These are big words. You already said you're not going to Target, and I know I'm not going to make that promise. Yo-Yo says, question, if you were Bruno, would you move clubs in January, knowing that Arsenal, Juve can come back to you in the summer with a clear, immediate future? Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Why would he move in January? I think it's just from our perspective, but here's the thing. The report said that Lyon are looking for a loan with an obligation to buy. So they're willing to move him on in January. And if you know anything about Lyon, they are spoiled for choice in midfield. They still have Aouar, they have Paqueta, they have Cacaret, they have tons of midfield talent. So if they think that they could get a loan with an obligation, and that's what they're looking for, then why not try it? He could probably wait, but I mean, I don't know. It seems like there's going to be more movement than usual in this January transfer window. And I'm not sure it's because there was unfinished business over the summer due to COVID and all of that, and people are starting to get their lives together. But if I was Bruno, I don't know what I would do, but I'm just thinking that if Lyon are open and they're looking for a loan with an obligation, then that opens up. And again, Lyon also have to make sure that Bruno is okay with a loan for an obligation. Everybody has to agree, the agent, the player, and both clubs. So if they're looking at offers for loan with an obligation, I'm sure that they briefed him on it, and maybe he's open to it if the right club comes knocking. And I think my biggest thing with this is that, I've been hard on Adu in the past, and I still am looking at him a little bit like, of course, he gets his flowers for this past window because it was a success. It really was. But I won't forget Willian so quickly. And I think that I want to see more competency in windows in succession. Like I really can't just go after one window, that he's the right guy. And one of the I thought one of the pluses of having Adu as your director of football or your technical director was his supposed connection in South American football. And so my assumption, and maybe this is the wrong assumption, but my assumption was really that of, you know, shouldn't we be at the front of the queue for some of these top South American talents? And you missed out on Bruno the first time. Maybe we should get him this time around. And so I'm kind of looking, if this is a top target for us, I would hope that we would get it done. And Kia needs to be of some sort of use to us. Like, and I think that he's had his hand in some intermediary duties in some of the deals that we've done as of late, but yeah, I think if Kia needs to make up for some of his little travesties that he had at the beginning of his Arsenal whatever. So this would be a good way to start making it up. Let's see. Rancid says Drapshin is the devil himself, but F it. I want to see Guimaraes in an Arsenal shirt. That's kind of where I am. Tony says we took the bad Kia. It's time for him to deliver. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So Yo-Yo asked, what is the news about Granit Xhaka? And so we'll go ahead and move into that because it is kind of connected to this. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of like, okay, good. Like, I'm not tripping. So this is coming from Gazzetta Italy. It's an Italian publication, of course, that is basically saying that AS Roma will return for Granit Xhaka once again in June, who is Jose Mourinho's first name on his midfield list. Despite Xhaka renewing his contract, Mourinho's feeling to sign the player never stopped. And I think this is a good thing, because for me, it's kind of like, I just didn't want to feel like we re-signed him as some sort of confirmation that he's going to be a pillar of our midfield for the next 2 years. Like, it has to end at some point. And it was time to move on in the summer. It didn't get done. And if Roma have more money in this summer, hopefully they come back for Granit Xhaka. And maybe this was somewhat of a gentleman's agreement that just stay this season. We will we'll extend your contract so that we can maintain your value, and we will sell you the next time around because we can't get the right fee for you. And so, this, for me, this is a good thing. You have to take everything with a pinch of salt. All these like rumors and reports could be whatever, but I think if Roma were to come back in for him, we might be able to get the deal done, which would open up the opportunity to have Bruno Guimaraes take over in that midfield position next season. So that was my little bit of Xhaka news, which is I was very excited to hear about that. I cannot lie. What are you guys thinking about that? Dave Riley, says, time to move on, Granite. Tony says, if we turn AMN and Xhaka into BG, Bruno Guimaraes, I'll quit my job and work at Walmart. Happily Egg says, Vlahovic is a rich man's Ibrahimovic at the price tag they are talking. Y'all still talking about Vlahovic. We need him now, to be honest. Yeah, and so this would obviously be in the summer, so Granite wouldn't be going anywhere at the moment, but it does feel like that's kind of what I was hoping that this was. It wasn't us, saying he's definitely our guy, 110%. It just, we need to extend you so that we can maintain your value. So when Roma comes back in for you, they need to pay that same money that they couldn't cough up this past summer. Yo-Yo says, I'll believe it when I see it. Xhaka should have left after Baku, and he's remained a leader in the side. And that's fair enough, Yo-Yo. He's been very resilient and stayed for a very long time. So I can understand why you need to see it to believe it as well. Rancid says, do you rate Kostic? He could be a Pepe replacement. We'll talk about him in just a second, very quickly as well, because there's still some more stuff that I want to get through. And that rumor I don't think is as concrete as the other ones. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So this is from Calcio Mercato, Italy, which is this publication that I don't read. But basically says that Arsenal have been credited with an approach. We don't know what an approach is for Eintracht Frankfurt's 29-year-old winger, Philip Kostic. And I know he's like a left winger. He has a very good cross on him. There was a moment in time where it was Kostic, Jovic, I think. Was it Kostic, Jovic, and Haller all playing for Eintracht Frankfurt? And they were amazing. But that was like 3 years ago. I don't know about this rumor. I think that, it's easy to link Arsenal with any old buddy, and he is a little bit on the older side, so I'm not really sure. I mean, we do need a more experienced attacker in there, especially because Pepe's not really holding up that he's not really doing that for us. He's not the experienced attacker that we need. And maybe they're thinking we could bring in somebody like Philip Kostic to do that. I don't know. I think he's a good player. He's an exciting player. When I've watched him play, I thought he has a very, very good cross on him. But I'm not really sure that I'm feeling this one, especially not now, because we don't need him right now. But what are you guys thinking about Kostic? Dave says, definitely see Pepe, Abba, Laka gone in the summer. Hi, CM, 1 of 2. 1 of 12 says, there's no way we can afford to sell Xhaka until the summer, given how threadbare our midfield is currently. Again, that was about the summer. Like, they're not going to buy him now. They were basically just saying that they're still interested in him. We're not going to sell him now. Was it Rebic, you guys, or was it Jovic? Who was it? I thought it was Jovic, Haller, and Kostic, but I could be wrong. Leonide says Kostic is too slow. Great foot, though. Spurs will sign him to feed in Kane. And yeah, I think this is somebody that I just wanted to touch on it really quick because it did come out, but I don't think he's coming to Arsenal. Doesn't feel like something that makes sense. Jacob says, much more sensible window would be Bruno G on loan with an obligation than either get Jonathan David or DCL in the summer. I tend to agree with you. I think making sure that you solidify the midfield and bring it, that would give Bruno a half of a season to get adapted to the Premier League. So I think I agree with you there. I'm a little bit less interested in Vlahovic than I am Bruno Guimaraes. I think Bruno is something that we need to get done. And in the summer, there will be options for striker. Yeah. All right. Let's see. What else do we have here? So we've spoken about Vlahovic. We've spoken about Kostic, Xhaka, Bruno Guimaraes, and yeah. So the last kind of things that we can touch on before we get out of here is it just flew out of my head. Balogun. So Balogun, his move to Middlesbrough is done, so he's going to be on loan, which is going to be a good thing for him. And Eddie is on Crystal Palace's radar again. They're in negotiations to try to sign him from Arsenal now, but his wages are proving to be an issue once again. He wants something that Crystal Palace, I guess, are not willing to offer. And because Nketiah has a big opportunity to go for free in the summer and get a huge signing bonus and stuff, doesn't really make sense for him to take anything lower at the moment. So I kind of see it from his perspective that he's like, either give me the wages or I'm just going to go somewhere else and get my Bosman deal. So Eddie Nketiah looks like somebody who he could or could he could leave or he may stay, but Crystal Palace are really interested in him. And I would say that if they were able to get him in, I think Crystal Palace is such a fun team to watch. Like they have such good like fun players to watch, like Elise, Eze, Zaha, if you still think he's any good, and then Edouard. And if they added Nketiah there, I think they have a really interesting team. Also with Conor Gallagher, so I think he would fit in well there. But it looks like the wages are proving to be an issue once again. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see. Santino says we need 2 midfielders. Yeah, I agree. Sorry. So, yeah, those are like the 2 other ones. And then there was a report that had come out that we actually signed a new young left back named, let me find it. Let me just find the report. It was His name is Lino Sousa from West Brom. So he's 16 years old, playing under 23s, and he's very highly rated. This was reported by Chris Wheatley. And, he's English and Brazilian, apparently. And there's like a little video of him on Chris Wheatley's Twitter page. And it's interesting. Like, I mean, we always sign young players for the academy, so it's not really something that's like, oh my gosh. But obviously, people were trying to put 2 and 2 together and make it like, okay, we're replacing Tavares. I don't think we're going to replace 21-year-old Tavares with 16-year-old Tino Sousa or whatever. But what I will say is that what I've been told is that this was really needed in the academy, having a left-footed left back there, and they've been kind of hurting for that for a while. And this is one to watch, because if he's any good, we probably will be seeing him within the next 2 years or so. So I love that. I like that we're proactive and we're bringing in good young talent into the academy to filter through the ranks. And so you can't really be upset about that. But that's kind of all of the transfer news that I had, which is quite a lot. The main ones being Vlahovic and Guimaraes and stuff. But what else do you guys what are you guys thinking? Like, are you guys feeling confident about us bringing in somebody before the end of the transfer window? Are you feeling a little bit nervous about it? What are you guys thinking? Pop says, just do you think Axel Zagadou from Borussia Dortmund would be a good replacement for Mari? I mean, possibly. I think Zagadou is injury prone though, and he just really hasn't done as much as I thought he would do at Borussia Dortmund. Because I watch Borussia Dortmund quite a lot, and he feels very injury prone to me. Axel Zagadou, 22 years old, still very young, still very, very young. He's only played 5 matches this season. That's not a lot, you guys. I think that kind of points to his lack of availability, or his inability to be available. Says like 15 million would be his market value, but you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. Injury history. Yeah, that's pretty significant. He's had like knee surgery, torn muscle fiber, torn knee ligament, ruptured knee ligament, knee problems. So he has a bum knee essentially. And so I think as a backup, maybe he could be a good option. And I guess we would be looking to bring in somebody if we can't wait until the summer to bring Saliba back. I don't know, but he could be an option. But I mean, are we even linked to him or no? Tony says Eddie shouldn't leave. There's a lot of talk about strikers moving up to bigger clubs, which will leave a vacuum at the second level. Dave Riley says, guys, Abba has lost his passion for the club, won't get back in time to move him on. Yeah, Aubameyang is somebody that people aren't really talking about that much right now. Obviously, because we've been playing well without him and he's at AFCON doing his thing. But he's somebody that I just kind of feel like, they're going to try to move him on, and there's been reports that Arsenal have been a little bit worried about the lack of interest in Aubameyang. And we knew that he would be hard to move on. When you put somebody on those types of wages and then you're trying to get rid of them and they're not in good form, it's very difficult to move them on. So I could easily see Aubameyang staying until the end of the season, but I do think he'll leave in the summer, if on like a loan or something. I don't know. But yeah, Aubameyang is somebody that's very hard to move, but it's not really that surprising. Yo-Yo says, I remember when people were saying Balogun was clear of Nketiah. Under 23s is different than grown man football. Neither are levels, but one is has somewhat contributed. I see what you're saying there. There's definitely a level, between the under 23s and big boy football, and it was shown because Balogun was rough against Sunderland, to put it nicely. Jose Flores says, hey, Jess, what are your thoughts on giving Laka a 2-year contract? I think it's time to move on, but I know he's playing well for us right now. What's your thoughts on it? So I know we're desperate to move Lacazette on. I am desperate to move Lacazette on. And when I woke up to see the report about us wanting to offer him a 2-year contract, 2-year extension, I was like, is just not what we need to be doing. But we're potentially going to be without 2 strikers. We're gonna lose Eddie, who would be the perfect backup striker, English homegrown backup striker to a big signing. But he's going to be leaving. Lacazette is at the end of his contract, and it looks like Aubameyang is on his way out. So we don't really have a recognized backup striker to whoever we're going to inevitably bring in. And that's a problem because Martinelli isn't really a number 9 right now. And so if you think about it from that perspective, okay, well, what if we brought in Vlahovic? Would it be that bad to have Lacazette as a backup there and a little bit of experience? I'm not sure that I would be that upset about it. That being said, I also want to be free from this group of players that for me is synonymous with the decline of the club. So that is your Mustafis, Socrates, Kolasinac, David Luiz, Leno, Aubameyang, Lacazette, and Granit Xhaka. Bellerin was a part of that as well. This group of players, good players, some of them in their own right, but there's just too much trauma for me connected with this group. And I think we're moving past them, and the quicker we move on from them, the better. I think Lacazette has done a good job of making himself over to become kind of like this leader that we can use, that the young players really like, and just does his job and works hard. But equally, I do think it's time to move on. But if he was the only one that stayed past this summer, I would be okay with it. Meaning if Aubameyang left and Xhaka left and all that was left with was Lacazette, and he was on a 2-year contract and was the backup striker to a big summer striker signing, I would not be that upset about it because we will have gotten rid of most of that group. And that's, I think, out of the entire group, for me, he's the one that has the most leadership ability. If you want to extract that from one of those players, it has to be Lacazette because it's definitely not Xhaka. Let's see. Rancid says, allegedly Arsenal offered Lacazette 2-year deal, yes or no? Just kind of answered that one. I kind of went around behind the house on my answer, but my overwhelming feeling is no. But looking at how many strikers we're going to lose, I can see why they're offering him something, because it's just you don't want to have to go out and buy two strikers. Like, you don't want to have to go out and get Vlahovic and then go look and try to, find some older striker that's on a free or that you can loan in. Like, if you could just give Lacazette a new deal, or a extension. So I can see why they think that that's a decent option. Yo-Yo says your midfield versus Liverpool if everybody is fit. Granit Xhaka, Sambi Lokanga, and Martin Odegaard. I think that's as close to the best midfield that we have that you can get. And I think Sambi will have a better game this time around. I just think he hasn't played a lot, and he was a little shell-shocked playing next to Patino. So I think that is what I would go with, and I'm hoping that Xhaka is ready to go. Tony says, "I keep Laka on this veterans minimum type deal." And let's not act like we haven't seen the value in our senior players being available to us. We went into a match against a team that we should be beating and got bopped out of the FA Cup because we didn't have enough senior presence on that team. We didn't have our senior pivot. We didn't have Tierney out there. We didn't have Lacazette out there, and it hurt us. So as much as we're really into this young group of players, they are still needing that senior experience presence. And so if anybody gives that to us, I think it's Thomas Partey in terms of his play when he's on it, and Lacazette in terms of what he adds up front. I think Xhaka is the best person to play with Thomas Partey, but I do not rate his type of leadership. I really, really don't. CU says, "Hey Jess, hey, how are you?" Says, "Do you think Arteta is still waiting to have the players he needs or wants to go to a 4-3-3 like we thought he would since he came from City, or do you think 4-2-3-1 is here to stay? We do not have the players right now to play in a 4-3-3, and every time we try it, it's looking well. Right now, we kind of bounce in between it. Like, our system is quite fluid, and so I'm not trying to sit here and say like we couldn't. I just think when we try to play with a single pivot and two eights, we don't have two strong eights, and we don't have a six that is like a standard six. And what I mean by that is like either a Rodri type who can clean up but also has the like distribution ability, or a Fabinho who's just a straight up like destroyer kind. And Thomas Partey is a little bit of a fusion of the two, but you can tell he kind of wants to burst through lines and dribble past people and stuff. So it's a difficult one. We just don't have the players. I think in order to move into that system, you have to bring in at least another 8, which Bruno Guimaraes could be that. He is a 6/8. And he can play in a midfield 3, and you probably have to bring in a 6, somebody like a Basuma or Douglas Luiz or somebody like that. But I don't think we have the players quite yet to make that happen. And so I'm perfectly comfortable with the 4-2-3-1. I'm wondering why I feel like the fan base is quite excited about the 4-3-3. Like, they really want it to happen. And I wonder why that is. Maybe it's because the two best teams in the country play a 4-3-3. But I think our 4-2-3-1 creates enough chances on the right day. And I think it's just more about upgrading that central midfielder and upgrading upgrading the central midfielder and upgrading the center forward, and obviously Saka and Martinelli and ESR kind of growing into their own. I think we're fine as a 4-2-3-1, and it doesn't really bother me, but I can see why people are so excited about the 4-3-3 and they're desperate to get to it, but we're not there yet. We're definitely not there yet. Let's see. Yo-Yo says, agreed. Laka is the most tolerable of that group. Happily Egg says, Lacazette is a big, honest, clumsy player who works hard. I mean, look, Lacazette has had a really tough time at Arsenal, and I sympathize with him because I just think he was one of those players that was brought in without a plan, and so he's gotten lost in this Arsenal mess. And we've looked at him as somebody who just wasn't able to be good enough. But if you looked at his numbers when he played for Lyon, I mean, you could have seen that he wasn't a 20-30 goal season, or 20 plus a goal season striker. You could just see it. And so to bring him in and then expect him to do that when that's not really what he was all about, and then 6 months later to bring in Aubameyang, it's tough. Like, it just is. And he's had his ups and downs, but I would say that I would not get, you could get rid of Lacazette and Xhaka and Aubameyang all this summer, but then you just have Thomas Partey, and we need at least one more senior leader that's not Holding. Holding's not good enough for me to be like a senior leader, because let's be real, if you're looking at him, you're like, bro, you're not better than us. Like, so what could you actually like tell us? Like, what have you won? And I think Lacazette gives you a little bit of that, so if I had to keep one, it'd be Lacazette. Let's see. Leonide says summer window is strikers window, AFC with better cards on hand. Then Neil says we need Basuma. I'm not sure what's going on with his life. I really am not. But we don't seem to be very interested in him. So I've kind of let that go, if I'm honest. Tommy Cafu says, I feel like if we don't go for Bruno, I feel like we should raid Donny van der Beek. Bear in mind, his girlfriend is Bergkamp's daughter. Let me ask, let's kind of think about this just a little bit. Donny van der Beek is a very, very, very talented player that made a bad move to Man United in a rush, I guess, to not be the last of that group. Frankie, De Jong, De Ligt, Ziyech, all of them kind of left at once in that really, really good Ajax team that kind of got picked apart. He didn't really want to get left behind, so he made a rushed move to Man United, and it hasn't worked out for him. But what I will say is that the new manager has come in and has not played him that much, and so that makes me think that there's something there attitude-wise, or maybe he's not physically up to what you need to be at to play in the Premier League. And so I'm a little bit reluctant to feel like that's a good move for us, even though I do rate Donny very highly. Matthias G, thank you so much for your super chat. Says, love your content. Call Saliba back. Call back Saliba and play with White and DM. Simple fix if you ask me. Did you see Ben White playing right back? I think he plays different positions like a center back, and I can't imagine him playing central midfield like anything but a center back out of position. So I think White has more technical ability than most center backs, but I don't think he can hang with the midfielders. But I hear you. I do. I hear you. So yeah. Let's sign midfielders. Diogo says, let's sign midfielders like Ruben Neves or Sanchez, big up from Portugal. So you're all about the Portuguese players. I think Ruben Neves would actually be a really good signing for Man United, not so much us. And Renato Sanchez is a third man in a three-man midfield. And as we've kind of spoken about before, without the six, I don't really think you could bring him in. But I hear what you're saying, and they're both very talented players. Yo-Yo says, White is no DM either. Neither is Chambers. People think they're playing FIFA. Mikey says Saliba will be good competition for Ben and Gabby. And when Gabriel gets these red cards or whatever, there's something happens or an injury, we won't be as oh my gosh, everything falls apart, because we see that there's kind of a huge drop off there with our back line when you don't have the first choice. And I think Saliba is much better than Rob Holding, and so I'll be interested to see how he fits in next season if he does come back. Is he? True Sets Free says, and thank you so much for your super chat. I really appreciate it. Says Jess is the best. Thank you so much. Other shows just scream and yell, very chill here. Yeah, typical Californian here. I'm really kind of like just like to have like fun conversations with you guys about football. It's how we do things here. Io Bammy says Genie will be a better upgrade to what we have now. Even Party can learn from him. If Genie Wijnaldum came in on a loan, I would just be like, okay, at least we got the Band-Aid. But to lose out on Bruno Guimaraes when you could have got him on a loan just feels silly to me. But I understand if we can only bring in a loan and that's all we can do, just a straight loan. I think Genie Wijnaldum is a good option. So, yeah. Let's see. Banky says, what do you think of Jesse Lingard's potential move to Tottenham? I would take a ball carrier like him, but there was a chance of getting him from United. I think we have a perfectly good ball carrier in Emile Smith-Rowe. So I don't really feel like we are in need of a Jesse Lingard, but I think Tottenham probably is. And I think that would be a good signing for them. And also keep him away from West Ham, because he did really well at West Ham. And I think, other teams are going to be, strengthening in this window, the teams around us. Especially, I think West Ham will bring in a player and Spurs will bring in a couple of players. And so we have to look at that and think, like, what can we do to get ourselves ahead of the game? And so somebody has to come in to keep us, really fighting for that top 4 spot. And so I think, again, Jesse Lingard would be a good signing for Spurs, but we have a really good ball carrier in Smith-Rowe right now who can't get into the team. So I don't really see how Jesse Lingard fits in there, but fair enough. Let's see. Ify says, is Bruno G willing to go on a loan though? Well, it would be a loan with an obligation. So essentially it would be a permanent signing, so I think that's the only way you'd get him out of there if it was an obligation, not like a regular loan. That makes sense. Let's see. Santino says, Jess, wouldn't you love to see Genie and Bruno both? I would, but I think we only have the capacity to bring in one midfielder. So if I had to choose, I'd say Bruno on a loan with an obligation to buy, set us up for success for next season, and let him go ahead and get adapted and have Xhaka's replacement already ready to go. I don't think we need to bring in 2. Just choose one or the other. That's just, I think we will need more than one midfielder. Like if we were to do the loan with an obligation to buy, maybe somebody like that Danilo could also come in the summer, but not right now. I don't think we need 2 because Thomas will come back and then you'll have Xhaka. And if you brought in one more and you still have Sambi, I think you're good for the rest of the season. Let's see. Aobami says, is it possible we get in a midfielder before the North London Derby? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. I think things have gotten a lot more quiet today. So I feel like that means that we're working. And I don't think anybody could come in at this point and make a significant difference unless it was somebody who was like really ready to go, because we see it takes so long. You have to, the transfer has to be finalized, and you have to do your medical and all of that. So I think if we bring in anybody, it'll be at the end of January. These games will be over. I just can't see, because we didn't have things lined up, like, and the players that we're going after are obviously harder to get, so I can't see it, but I'd love to be wrong. Let's see. But yeah, so let's go ahead and stop it there, just because I do have to leave right now. And I just wanted to pop on really quick. Tomorrow, match preview for Liverpool versus Arsenal in the Carabao Cup. So make sure that you guys join us there. I'll try to get some of the guys on if I can. Everybody's really busy, but I'll try to get somebody else on so we can do lineups and all of that kind of stuff. And then the day of the game, we'll be doing the pre-match live stream with Arsenal Vision. So make sure you guys are subscribed there. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. There's 280 of you guys here. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, all of those great and wonderful things. And make sure that you guys follow us on Twitter at SheKnowsArsenal. I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you for the nice super chats and just the nice conversation. I love just having like these random shows with you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy them as well. And we'll just keep it moving. So I'll talk to you guys in the next one. And yeah.